lake lovers before we dig in and then turn it over to Gloria. So I'm just going to start the recording right now. Welcome to those of you who are just joining, Becky, Adina, and good to have you with us, and Jerry, of course. I'm just going to, oh, I guess it was already recording. It's an automatic with these Zooms. So I want to share with you the reason we're all here together is because Lake County has lakes, 173 of them. And as you heard, if you attended the ILMA presentation by Becky and Paul, who are on this call, that 70% of them are impaired. And our desire is to see something done to them, to improve them, to monitor them. As Becky will share with you, our lakes are orphans because they were here before our municipalities, and they are not owned like built infrastructure, so they don't receive the same investment, but yet they accomplish so much for us in the purification of our waterways and the storage of stormwater that we really feel they're worth our investment. And so we're calling all of you lake lovers to join this community. You can scan this QR code, or we'll just put it in the chat. But you can also go to our main site, which is Global Waterworks. Lake County Lake Lovers is a working group of Global Waterworks focused on Lake County's lakes. And right now we have about 30 volunteers involved in monitoring our 12 lakes across the county who agreed to participate in a bi-monthly measurement process where we're looking at phosphorus, sediment, oxygen, and the temperature, the general health of the lakes, and trending that so that we can hopefully make better decisions, looking at the change of our lakes over time in response to treatments, but also as an indicator of the need for treatments. And July 17th, we hope you will all, so just want to mention, we do have a pilot lake monitoring map out. It's Google Maps, and you can use this QR code to get to it. We had about 1,500 additional viewers looking at it, about 4,500 views right now. So if you are on one of the lakes that are being monitored, know that we're putting your data up there. And if you are not, we hope to have another training and bring more people into this monitoring effort. And July 17th, we will have dinner and networking at Docks in Wakanda. We hope to share lake stories. And if you click through to this, you'll see we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the mucky. And we think that those who are out there managing the lakes and monitoring them will have a lot of fun things to share. We've already seen the great population of fish over at St. Mary's, and seen opportunities for treatment. Our own Island Lake, Stacy's group, has voted to do a treatment rather than have 4th of July fireworks. So that's a very exciting initiative. We also want you to know that you can come into the Lake County Lake Lover group at any time and discover solutions when you enter right here. If you go in, we'll share this link, but you come in and you'll see how many people are here. We have a number of people who have agreed to serve as hosts and moderators. And what we believe is lakes are what make Lake County great. You'll see who we are, what we deliver. We have 176 members in the community already. And it's free, and we list at the top featured items like the ILMA presentation, like tonight's presentation, and last month's presentation where we heard about the eradication of Basilicor by the folks at Loon Lake, where Tom Keefe and some of the members are from today. And then 2 months ago, we heard about the deterrence for geese and beavers from Jerry Munley, who's on, who will be back next month to share sort of the approach he's taking. As you can see, he was written up here in the Daily Herald. The whole pilot monitoring program was to talk about, how we get healthy lakes and how monitoring helps with management, and because we can see the opportunity. But Jerry will talk more about the parameters we're measuring. And Jerry, did you want to say anything about that? Right now, I didn't tee you up to talk, but maybe if you could unmute and just share what people can expect.
Well, we're still working on a PowerPoint that will show some things on some of the most significant parameters, and then also have some information on additional parameters, more than just the top 5 or 6.
Wonderful. And I know we're also working on a dashboard. So this is all pretty innovative. To my knowledge, there are no other states that are sort of using the whole citizen science group with advanced equipment like this to track together. And we'll put the link to the Google map in there. But if anyone has any questions, we will have a Q&A at the bottom of the hour. And I gave Gloria 30 minutes, and she has just a spectacular presentation and is an engaging speaker. So I think you'll all learn a lot from this time. But if there's anything before we start that I've missed, Becky or Paul, we have a growing team, and you are all part of our lake lovers. So we just really value you all being here and playing a part. And so, Gloria, I think we'll turn it over to you, and I'll put those links that I mentioned in the chat, and just look forward to learning and also tapping the amazing resources. I should say, Gloria heads up the Sierra Club HABS group. She is also a key leader in the Manitou Creek Watershed Working Group. And when I started out in lake activities here in Lake County, the first person they suggested we connect with was Gloria Charland, because she takes a very active role in both educating others, learning herself. And last year or 2 years ago, I don't know, Ilma named her the Volunteer of the Year Award, or Lifetime Volunteer, I think, for your efforts. So Gloria, thank you. We applaud you for all that you've done and appreciate having you here.
Thanks for having me. Oh, it's not working. Here we go. Ta-da!
Great.
So how did green slime become my
We just lost your audio, I think. Looks like your system froze. We have a tornado situation here. She noted the thunderstorms. I hope that's not it.
Yeah, that affected us.
Mhm. So Gloria, maybe if you want to go out and come back in, or it does look like you're frozen. And I'm guessing we'll hear from her again, but I'll put in the chat the Lake Pilot Program, because Sandy, who's on the call, is actually monitoring out of Gloria's backyard. And it's fun. So let me see. Is she trying to get back in? So we lost her.
While we're waiting, I'm just curious, what's the weather like where everyone's joining? I'm in Libertyville, and I had pretty good sized hail just,
Wow.
15, 20 minutes ago. Is anyone else getting hail?
I had a few bits on my way home, but it's stopped, but it was raining like really heavy drops, big drops, hail particles.
Antioch is flooding right now.
Flooding. Oh my gosh.
Very heavy rain and high winds.
Wow. I'm on Third Lake. We got nothing. Not even a drop.
That's common.
Wow.
And we need it.
Yeah.
What's Island Lake, Stacy?
That's north. What's her name?
Gloria back. We went out to walk the dogs an hour ago, and the sirens came in, so she's back.
She's back.
Yeah, there was a lightning strike and all my power went out, and I was talking along and I thought, I don't think they can hear me.
Oh, I'm so glad you're okay. Oh my goodness.
All right, let's find my screen again.
And maybe you could put a link to the presentation if you could just copy it.
You have the PDF in your
Okay,
file.
great.
All
So
right. Slideshow. Here we go. If you a little about me, so I live on Long Lake in Lake County, Illinois, a water body that has produced documented cyanobacteria blooms since 1973. Not an honor we are happy to have. I was trained in freshwater algae identification, collection, and ecology in a 40-hour course with the late Dr. Ann St. Amand in 2021 at Tech in St. Joseph, Michigan. Pictured on the left is the textbook. And then there's a photo of Dr. St. Amand doing her life's work. And finally, a photo of myself and Jim Bland taking a sample from Long Lake. I have used my training to identify cyanobacteria blooms on Long Lake, to test for toxins, and to give the lake community an early warning when the blooms are toxic. As the slide says, we only have 30 minutes. We are not covering cyano ID with microscopes, my favorite topic. We are not covering causes of cyanobacteria blooms, mitigation of cyanobacteria blooms, and though I love sea lions, we are not discussing marine harmful algal blooms. What we will cover is how to visually identify a probable cyanobacteria bloom, how to collect a sample, cyanotoxins, testing for the most common cyanotoxin, microcystin, creating an early warning system for your lake, reporting your blooms to the county, the IEPA, and the EPA, how you can join a community of citizen scientists doing the same, and activism, reporting your blooms to elected officials. So how did green slime become my life? I've been an environmental activist for a long time. And if you're concerned about that toxic green slime on your lake, well, you're an environmental activist too. I'm on the left in this photo from 2014. And as the story goes, I had been working with the Sierra Club on closing a coal plant in Waukegan and stopping the Route 53 extension when a Long Lake resident contacted the Sierra Club about pollution on Long Lake. Long Lake, well, hey, I lived on Long Lake. We formed a grassroots group called the S Blank Clean Water Alliance, now renamed to the Manitou Creek Watershed Alliance, which was an alliance between the Long Lake residents and the Sierra Club. In 2018, our group brought Dr. Todd Miller from Milwaukee down to speak to the lake residents about the cyanobacteria blooms. Dr. Miller told me that I could test for toxins at a cost of about $35 a test, and I was off and running. This is Ashley Weiss, a high school freshman who was my first intern. In 2021, the Sierra Club awarded me a grant for myself and Jim Bland to attend Dr. Ann St. Amand's amazing training in Michigan. Jim and I did a presentation after for the Sierra Club, and in 2022, they asked me to chair their National Harmful Algal Blooms team. In 2023, as Mary mentioned, the Illinois Lakes Management Conference, I was awarded the Dick Hilton Watershed Stewardship Award for my work identifying cyanobacteria blooms with a microscope and cataloging the photos over the season in 2022. Here's a photo of me and Jim Bland, who presented the award. This year, the Sierra Club National HABS team was awarded an $11,000 grant to form a citizen science group and do in-person workshops for folks concerned about harmful algal blooms on their lakes. We'll talk about that more later. I say potato, you say potato. Terms. I will be using the term cyanobacteria to encompass related terms such as blue-green algae, harmful algal blooms, or HABs, cyanobacteria harmful algal blooms, or cyanoHABs, and cyanobacteria harmful algal mats, or cyanohams. Sounds kind of like something you serve on Easter Sunday, huh? Friend or foe? So 3.5 million years ago, cyanobacteria were the only life forms on Earth. This is supposed to be a picture of the primordial soup at that time. After some evolution, cyanobacteria learned how to take electrons from water, photosynthesize, and create a byproduct called oxygen. Without cyanobacteria, we would not have an atmosphere. They are still simple, ancient, one-celled creatures with no nuclei or many other cell structures. They have chlorophyll A and produce their own food through photosynthesis, like plants. They are in fresh water and salt water, in hot springs and under ice pack. They are in the soil and on desert rocks. They are part of healthy ecosystems, and they are not always toxic. So why do we care? First off, never let your dog swim in something that looks like this. Cyanobacteria blooms can produce toxins that kill pets, livestock, waterfowl, and humans. The biomass of a bloom can tank oxygen levels and cause fish kills. Our drinking water facilities need to test and treat for toxicity, taste, and odor. And they are everywhere. India, Africa, Europe, Australia. In fact, 70% of freshwater bodies in the US are eutrophic or over-fertilized and are capable of producing a toxic algal bloom. So what are we looking for? A good rule of thumb is when in doubt, stay out. But here's a little more to go on. An algal bloom is loosely defined as a visible color change in the water. Usually they are green or blue-green, but they can be pink or even brown. With algae on the surface or in the water column, there can be poor visibility or increased turbidity, and often there's a foul odor, which can be described as musty, grassy, or like an open sewer. Here's a close-up of that last photo. Yes, there is visible color, but it is not a cyanobacteria bloom. The stick test shows us that this is duckweed. It's the world's smallest flowering plant. It is native, and of course, ducks love it. An overabundance of duckweed indicates a high nitrogen content in the water. It is not toxic, but too much will prevent sunlight from reaching the aquatic plants below. The lack of aquatic plants can result in low oxygen for the fish, and it can disrupt an ecosystem. Here again, we have a visible color in the water, but not cyanobacteria. This is water meal. It's in the duckweed family, and they often occur together. And same as duckweed, too much is not good for your ecosystem. Also, not cyanobacteria. The stick test shows a filamentous green algae with a little duckweed thrown in there. Filamentous green algae is native and is part of a healthy ecosystem, but too much filamentous green algae can disrupt an ecosystem similar to duckweed or watermeal, but it is not cyanobacteria and it is not toxic. This is a cyanobacteria bloom. Sometimes it can look like spilled paint on the surface of the water. With the end of my sampler, I'm able to pick up a little of the surface scum. It's called the stick test. Here's another bloom. The cyanobacteria rise to the surface, and after they have accumulated there, you usually are able to pick up a layer of scum, but not always. So what do you think? Cyanobacteria or filamentous green algae?
Cyano.
It's got a nice blue-green color. Kind of looks like spilled paint, but it's also three-dimensional. See the lumpy parts? It's both. This was filamentous green algae that was collecting at the shore, and then the cyanobacteria bloom came in on top of it. It's a disgusting mess. When in doubt, stay out. Here's another possible failure of the stick test. Some cyanobacteria, such as this microcystin, I can say that, form these thick mats that can be confused with harmless filamentous green algae. Some things to look for. It is definitely three-dimensional, but if you look at the stick, it's not exactly stringy and filamentous. Also, the cyanomats can have some pretty awful putrid sewer-like odors, while filamentous green algae does not have odors. Here's some photos of cyanobacteria blooms to help you with visual clues. They can be blue or blue-green in color like these photos, green or greenish yellow like these. And check these out. They can be red, purple, or even brown. I am personally watching every winter for this pink cyanobacteria in the upper right. It can grow under the ice on your lake. It's called Planktothrix rubescens. Here's some mat-forming cyanobacteria blooms. Check out those floating balls in the lower right-hand corner. Moving on to cyanotoxins. Cyanobacteria can produce over 100 known toxins or cyanotoxins. The first family we'll talk about is hepatotoxins. These disrupt proteins that keep the liver functioning. They can produce liver damage, liver tumor, potentially leading to liver failure or hypovolemic shock and death. They may act slowly, days to weeks, or even years. Microcystins are the most common hepatotoxins and have been found in the air over and near cyanobacteria blooms. They have even been found in the nostrils of people living near affected water bodies in Florida. Scientists are just beginning to study the long-term effects of living near affected lakes. Neurotoxins can produce rapid paralysis of skeletal and respiratory muscles, sometimes meeting death in minutes. Dermatotoxins can produce rashes and other skin reactions, usually within hours. They can also cause eye irritation and conjunctivitis and respiratory tract inflammation. The neurotoxin BMAA can be incorporated into cell proteins and can be an environmental trigger for ALS and other neurological diseases associated with protein misfolding, such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Exposure to irritant toxins has been related to gastrointestinal problems, skin or eye irritation, and allergic reactions. Note, all toxins become neurotoxins when they are present at high enough concentrations. Here's a chart with some of the most common cyanobacterium and the toxins they produce. On the left is a list of cyanobacteria listed by genus. The rest are toxins each genus can produce. So here are the hepatotoxins, microcystins, nodularins, cylindrospermopsin, neurotoxins, anatoxins, saxitoxins, and dermatotoxins, Lingbia, aplasia, for example. Note, often a cyanobacteria can produce more than one type of toxin. Also, just because a cyanobacteria can produce a toxin or toxins doesn't mean they're doing that. The only way to know if your cyanobacteria bloom is toxic is to test it.
And Gloria, maybe you're going to explain this a little bit, but the impact of these toxicities, on stomach, is it neurological? If you could bring it into layman's terms a little bit for those of us who aren't as well versed in the Latin terms.
Hepatotoxins affect your liver. Neurotoxins, your nervous system. Dermatotoxins affect your skin. Excitotoxins can cause ALS, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's, and irritant toxins, gastrointestinal problems, eye, skin, and allergic reactions. Good?
Thank you. Yes, you did go over this. It's just good to see after seeing all those three-syllable words. So thanks.
There we go. Okay. Note, the most common toxin produced by cyanobacteria are the microcystins. And the most accessible field tests are for microcystin. My training with Dr. St. Amand was that you test for microcystins first. If your sample is positive for microcystins, then you can test for the other toxins if you wish. A little more on microcystin. This is the latest advisory published by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in 2015. Here's their website. Note the little red box at the bottom. I'm going to blow it up here. You will see that the EPA recommends microcystin levels at or below 8 micrograms per liter for public health. So that's the level we're looking for when we test for microcystin. Oh, I took the E off here. Collecting a grab sample. Okay, so now you have something in your lake that visually you're fairly sure is a cyanobacteria bloom. What if you're not certain? You can still do a toxin test. If your sample is toxic, well, you can be sure you've got a cyanobacteria bloom. And that your community needs to be warned. When taking a sample, wear a face mask because the toxins can be in the air, and gloves because there are dermatotoxins that affect the skin. The device we're using in these photos is called a swing sampler. Yes, you can collect a sample without one, but a swing sampler makes the process easier and safer. They often come with telescoping poles, so you can stretch it out and collect a sample 12 or 18 feet away from where you're standing. Take your sample 1 foot deep in the water. This is called a grab sample with an E. Note, if you have a mat-forming cyanobacteria, the sample is collected by cutting off a piece of the mat, not a grab sample. Here's a little more on the swing samplers. In the past, I would have directed you to a scientific supply house to find a swing sampler, but now you can find everything on Amazon. The samplers I have are NASCOs, like on the left, but I have no experience with these other brands, but I'm sure they're just fine. Also, I've heard of people making their own do-it-yourself samplers with a broom and a plastic milk jug. Use your imagination. Just don't get into the water without tall enough boots or put yourself in a position where you might fall into the water while collecting a sample. Collecting a sample. So, cyanobacteria move up and down in the water column using air vacuoles or aerotypes. So they fill up with air and they rise and they release the air if they want to go down. But they have no flagellum or any means of swimming around your lake. So they move around your lake with your currents and with the wind. Ideally, you want to take a sample at the shoreline and then paddle out to the middle of the lake for a second sample to determine if the bloom covers the entire lake or if it's just a small bloom that has blown over to some corner of the lake, like right in front of my house is one of those lovely corners. I found it took just too much time as a volunteer to hop in my little kayak because you don't want to use a motorboat when there's a bloom and paddle all the way to the middle of the lake. So what I usually do is I sample at the shoreline and then I'll sample 60 foot out, which is the end of my pier. If you do paddle out to the middle of the lake, you're going to reach down and take your sample elbow deep, wearing a long glove, of course. The first photo here is a HAB that is only at the shoreline. See, when you go 60 feet out, there's almost nothing there. The second photo here, this was a whole lake bloom. This third photo, I did get to the center of the lake, but you can see it was only on the shore. On Long Lake, when I see a bloom in front of my house, there are 3 other volunteers on other corners of the lake. I'm the northwest corner. I send them a text and they run out and look and see what's going on in front of their houses. Other times the HABS Harriers will contact me and say, Gloria, I've got this bloom right in front of my house. And then we'll begin the process from their house. This is called the jar test. If you leave your sample refrigerated and undisturbed overnight, cyanobacteria usually rise to the top. My samples have always risen to the top within an hour. Here's a fun one. Which sample is the most toxic? All of these sample jars contain cyanobacteria. Haha. After we tested them, none were toxic. We were actually surprised ourselves. Again, the only way to know if a cyanobacteria bloom is toxic is to test it. So let's talk about testing. So for the last 6 years, I've been testing for microcystins using the gold standard on the left. And then last summer, Jim Bland told me that Paul Spiewak was using a test kit he bought on Amazon. I talked to Paul. His test was cheaper and quicker, but I could find no one in the scientific community that was using the 5 strands test. I plan to do some comparison of the 2 tests this summer, but 2 presenters at the 2025 HABS Symposium this past January saved me the trouble. And yes, the 5 strands test is as accurate as the gold standard diagnostic. Here's how they compare. Gold standards, you have to send them an email, get a price quote, get your order, send them your money. With the 5 strands, you can just go on Amazon or on their website, click, and you've got it. Gold standards, you have to buy your test kits in 5 tests or 20 tests. 5 strands, you can just buy one test at a time. The 5 strands tests are cheaper and quicker to run. A little more. So this is the gold standards. After 11 different steps, you will get a test strip that will produce a control line and a test line that indicates the amount of microcystin in your sample. Remember, we're looking for 8 parts per billion or less. I have run samples that didn't produce a control line when my sample looked kind of like green applesauce. So make sure you've got some water in your sample for either one of these tests. I mean, it's tempting to get that green applesauce stuff, but you need some water. So theoretically, with the gold standards test, you'll be able to know if you have no microcystin, some microcystin, but not enough to be toxic to humans, or if you're over 10 parts per billion, which would indicate toxic. Here's what the test strips actually look like. You will see they're not as easy to read as the diagram. The gold standard test does give you some idea of the lower but not considered dangerous levels of microcystin, but it is not perfect and it is hard to read. Here's the 5 strands test. After a 4-step process, remember the gold standard was 11 steps, you're going to get a reading of negative or positive, like a COVID test or a pregnancy test. You're not going to have any idea of the level of microcystin. You just know that you have some microcystin in your sample. How toxic? Remember, we're looking for 8 parts per billion, or 8 micrograms per liter. Those terms are used interchangeably. In Lake County, we have an awesome lakes unit at the Lake County Health Department. If you bring your samples to them after you've tested them at home, they will send it on to the environmental, well, they can test it for you also, but they'll send it to the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency, and they will use their equipment to do much more accurate testing than we can in the field. Long Lake has had readings as high as 10,900 parts per billion. Remember, any toxin at a high enough level becomes a neurotoxin. And while it's important to document these high concentrations, 10 days after my harmful algal bloom is a little late to warn the residents. It's kind of like, hey, the lake was really toxic last week. I hope you didn't go in the water. So what I do when I get a toxic reading, and here's some pictures of cyanos under a microscope. I send out an early warning email to all the people who live on Long Lake. You want me to read it? Yeah, I'll read it. Hi, water warriors. There is a toxic algal bloom on Long Lake today. At Northwest Long Lake, it tested positive for microcystin at a level toxic to human adults, children, dogs, and other animals. The water in front of your house could be more or less toxic. As always, when in doubt, stay out and keep dogs and children away from the scum on the beaches. Remember, boating activities that produce a spray can result in toxins going directly into lung tissue. Have a nice day, Gloria. After you've warned your lake community, you want to notify the authorities. So using this QR code or this website, and you can find this easy enough online, you can report your blooms to the Illinois EPA. And then you can download the US EPA's Bloom Watch app. on your cell phone and report it to them. I am advocating this year, notify your elected officials. They want to know what's going on in their district. If something comes up and they need to vote on it, they need to know that this is something that is in their district and that their constituents are concerned about. In the nicest way possible, contact your Lake County board member, your state representative, state senator, U.S. representative, maybe your mayor if you live in a city, and let them know that you want to keep them aware of your lake conditions in their district. And you're going to be including them in your early warning emails. Citizens, so this is the grant I mentioned earlier. The National Sierra Club Harmful Algal Blooms team got a grant this year to start a citizen scientist group. If you are interested in receiving free microcystin field testing kits, joining a listserv with notices of webinars, conferences, and articles about HABs, learning how to identify cyanobacteria species using a microscope, joining a Google group with other citizen scientists to discuss your findings, then focus your phone camera on this QR code and fill out the form. It's one page. It'll take you about 1 minute. I'm giving everybody a second to fill out my form. I'm recruiting here.
Yeah. Everyone scan. Yeah. Support Gloria.
Yes, I want to send you free kits, and I can't do it till you fill out this form.
Great. And I also saved it so we can share it in the community.
Oh, good, good, good. All right, does everybody have it? Yeah, anybody want me to wait longer? All right, rolling along. Additionally, in the grant, we're doing 3 in-person water monitoring workshops, one of which is going to be in Chicago. There's a virtual kickoff on Wednesday, June 18th in the afternoon. It'll be recorded, so you can watch it later if you can't attend. And then the in-person is on Saturday, June 28th from 8 to 4 p.m. We're going to feed you breakfast and lunch, and it's at the Way Cool Peggy Note Park Nature Center. You are going to be learning how to identify cyanobacteria species using a microscope, which is way fun. You're going to learn about water monitoring for chemical analysis and how to do that free through the Sierra Club. You're going to learn about water quality analysis through macroinvertebrate sampling and much more. They're going to have the sign-up forms ready Friday, they told me. So I will get that to Mary as soon as I have it. And everyone's welcome. We'd love to have you. And that's all I've got.
Well, that's a lot, Gloria. And I'm guessing we have some questions in the group. I am just putting, I hope I can put this, just the QR code. Oh, I'll put it in the community. But questions, you can put them in the chat. I do have a question. A few years ago, and the reason we got involved with this was because the Government Accountability Office asked every municipality to accelerate their efforts with harmful algae blooms and create a specific program. Right after that, PFAS and the microplastics came out, and it seemed like the whole focus was shifted away from harmful algae blooms. Have you seen a progress as far as municipalities taking extra interest, or is it still the citizens?
So in the National Sierra Club Harmful Algal Blooms team, we've got people from Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, Michigan, Iowa, Washington State, and I'm going to say no. It's like my complaint is always, we live on these lakes. We did not over fertilize these lakes. we get to live with these toxic algal blooms, and it falls upon us to fix the problem that we didn't cause.
Mhm. There questions? Oh, Rob,
Charcoal, Scott, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead.
Does the charcoal bags help any of this issue? Supposedly, like Catherine or whatever is trying charcoal bags.
It would be a lot of fun to put together a whole webinar on all the different ways you can reduce phosphorus in your lake, but we're not doing that today.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with the algae blooms.
Activated charcoal does pull out phosphorus, but it's hard to say how much phosphorus you've got in your lake, how much charcoal you need. But yeah, it's kind of like turning your lake into a fish tank, because that's what's in a fish tank filter. It's good. Anything that pulls phosphorus out of your lake is good, but to write a prescription for activated charcoal to cure your lake, it was going to be difficult.
Yeah, Lake Catherine right now is having people buy them to put them on their docks.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. It's not going to hurt. It's going to help.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, go ahead, Alan. Oh, and then Paul.
I'll ask a question real quick. How about boating? If you have this, should all the boats be off the lake, or what's the warning on that, Gloria?
Well, we don't have a public beach, so we can't close any part of Long Lake. So I put out that warning, and it's up to the people if they want to go out there. And it pretty much, once that email goes out, the lake is very quiet. But I remember one time Jim and I were standing on my shore after taking this disgusting sample, and there was this boat like just too far away to shout to, with this slide and these children jumping off the slide into the algal bloom. Yeah. And I have to say, Jim, I don't know if you remember, RJ was always very skeptical about the algal blooms and getting people sick and people dying and dogs dying. And he was out last fall. It was just the day they had off work and the day they had to do it, and they were working on the dam on Long Lake, and he stood in a bloom and got very sick for like a week.
Wow.
Wow. And go ahead, Paul, you're muted. So,
Yeah, okay. So I talked to Alana a while ago, and I think she told me, and maybe someone here knows for sure, but I think she told me that at high pH, there's an ion called bicarbonate that some of the HABs can use as an energy source, so that at high pHs, HABs are favored over normal algae. And I wondered if anybody here knows more about that, or Gloria, maybe you know, or Jim.
No, I haven't learned about that. There's always new stuff coming out. Just recently, you know how human beings wind up putting a lot of antibiotics in our water? That charges up cyanobacteria. Yeah, light pollution. So all of those fancy lights you've got dangling off your piers all year long, you're helping the algal blooms. It seems like anything humankind does, we're making algae blooms worse.
yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
Great, Jim, go. Thanks.
And a couple things. One of the things about what we know about HABs is there has been less epidemiology than should have been the case. So having blood samples and urine samples and knowing what is happening with populations of people around the lake, that research is less than what it should be. Gloria's idea of sending a note to your congressman, my great hope, and Mary and Paul will back me up, is I want to see the volunteer lake monitoring program reinstituted, and I want to see Alana get the resources that she needs to be able to do far more phosphorus testing than is done by the county at this point in time. One last comment or one last observation on Long Lake. One of the years that I was there working with Gloria and other folks there was a late fall documentation of elevated microcystis, but it didn't look like a bloom. And what can happen, the cells, in order to release microcystin, have to lyse or decay in order to release microcystin. And once they release it, then they're no longer in that bloom, at least in this one circumstance. Once it was released, they're no longer in that bloom characterization that is easy to determine. The water column looked relatively clear. It had a slight yellow cast to it, but it still had high microcystin counts. One last comment. Earlier on, that is in 2015, the count that existed at Long Lake wasn't 19,000 micrograms per liter, it was 200,000 micrograms per liter. It's one of the highest readings that Illinois has ever had. Gloria hasn't done a good job. She's done a great job, including getting USGS to come and to get IIT and a lot of other people involved. And she deserves all of that credit she can possibly get for all of those good things.
Thanks, Jim. I would just add to what Jim said. I'm a little bit of an addict to scientific studies on harmful algal blooms because I'm such a nerd. Not on Long Lake because I haven't tested, but they have found microcystin in clear waters on lakes in the spring too. So in May, there's no bloom, nothing to see, and there's microcystin. I don't believe these are at a real high level, but it's scary.
One of the things about microcystin is it is a cyclic peptide, and it is very stable in the water column. So people look to boil it and do other sorts of things, and they don't detoxify its chemical status. So it's an example of something that stays, it's capable of staying in the water column for a very, very long period of time.
Yeah, so important to know. And Becky had a few comments. I think, Becky, if you could just unmute and share those with the larger group. I think this communication on what HABs is, the toxins that we're exposed to. Go ahead, Becky. It needs to get to our lawmakers, but
yeah, I think that I'm so ignorant about this. And I think I love the idea of raising awareness locally, statewide, and larger, but I would also suggest putting some context to what this is and why does it matter and what the bigger problem is, because I think just reporting on number isn't possibly going to cause the kick in the gut reaction that possibly we're hoping for. And then I'm getting a sense that most of you have been involved in this work for a long time, maybe decades. Why are we not going to the source of the problem, the phosphorus perhaps, and trying to make a change? And, is this Aaron Brockovich? type of territory? Do we have, to Jim's point, we don't have the data, the epidemiology data that says, here's how many dogs have died or wildlife, here's how many people who've been sick, here's how much, the increase of ALS or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's have been occurring. I think this is very alarming to me. And I'm just curious if anyone tests the dog park where the dogs go swimming every single day. I will definitely use the color test and the smell test. So I learned so much, Gloria. Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, and again, the all good ideas, all needed stuff, Becky. And again, I'm going to say it all falls on us volunteers. Maybe that's something that the lake lovers can, I mean, I know it's a 501(c)(3), so we can't support a law, but I think we could support, have a big campaign to everybody contact your Lake County board members and ask for more funding for the Lakes unit at the Lake County Health Department.
Well, that's a great approach. We also do have some solutions. The reason we started Lake County Lake Lovers was because we learned of solutions in India that we're addressing through enzymes and aeration and dissolved oxygen. But Arun Kumar is here. I don't know if you can unmute Arun, but the role of diatoms and just, I guess we want to talk about treatments at a future time. If you can share a very brief comment or put in the chat what you're seeing as effective in your efforts in India where this occurs. Hi, Arun, and it's very, very early there, so 5:30 in the morning.
Oh, thanks for coming.
Yeah, right. I think you're frozen.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks for lakes over the years, mostly in India and many in the US as well. What we have found.
And the connection's not there, Arun. We're not hearing you.
Bueno.
What I'm going to do is put Arun's information into the chat so that anyone can find it. I'm sorry, Arun. Is there? So, or Arun, if you could put your contact information into the chat, and it's newalgae.com where they do have some solutions, and Jim and other members of the community have been talking through this use of diatoms, the algae itself, to create some oxygen too. Jim, maybe you could comment on that.
I'm turning off my video. Can people hear me?
We can hear you much better. Yes.
Okay.
You could just, and now we can't. So Arun, I think we'll need to get you on future time. You're in the community. Okay, go ahead.
Them. Because they're able to reduce these excess nutrients, they're able to give competition for the cyanobacteria and therefore really slow down their growth. We have also seen that when you stimulate the growth of diatoms, that the cyanobacteria come up to the surface a lot quicker, they crash, and they can be easily removed physically. So we're seeing a lot of benefits by increasing competition, through a very beneficial algal species called diatoms. And I'd be happy to share with you a little bit more about our experiences offline.
Arun, were you ever able to contact NAMS, North American Lake Management Society, for purposes of trying to put on a presentation?
Yes, I've talked to them. I'm waiting to see whether I can get one pilot test done in the US before making a presentation at their annual conference. I have contacted them, but they're looking for some sort of experimental evidence in a paper publication, and I'm waiting for that kind of evidence to sort of pile up before I can make a presentation. We have sold our product for a number of years, and there are a lot of people who are buying it and find it useful, but we haven't really worked with the scientific community that does a lot of testing and to create data in a publishable form.
Well, I think that you were doing the right inquiry with the Strand Group, and for others, that is a research group out of Pennsylvania, and the person that started it, in fact, was someone whose specialty was diatoms. So they do a fair amount of diatom work, but we're not up to funding Arun's what Arun was talking about. They had other priorities that they have. I thought that was disappointing. I'm sure you were too.
Yeah. I really appreciate your efforts, Jim. I've been in touch with Bhaskar, and he's kept me appraised of your discussions with him. So, thank you.
Yeah, I think the more we can surface solutions, and does anyone else, we're at time right now, so I want to allow anyone who needs to leave to leave. We will have this recording up on the in the community, the lake lover community. But if anyone has a solution, you could put it in the chat or share it anytime in the community, and or just raise your hand right now and tell us about a solution that you've seen work. And I'll volunteer one that got rave reviews because Island Lake is going to be implementing it, so we'll soon see results. And that is Utrafix, or is it Utrazorb, Paul, by Utrafix? It's one is the company and one is the product. Utrazorb by Utrafix, the company. Okay, that's it. And they, as I mentioned earlier, they're bored because they continually have these toxic HAB problems. They had money to use for fireworks or for the treatment. And when they learned about the treatment, addressing the phosphorus and sort of locking that down to reduce the likelihood of HABs, they said, well, let's do that. And I think they committed to 2 or 3 years worth of treatments, and they'll be starting next month. And they are part of the pilot monitoring. So we're hoping to get visibility into that. Anything to add on that, Jim? You were aware of
one last thing that Gloria did not talk about is the influence of HABs on the fishery and the fish community. There's a new publication put out by California Public Health Group doing a summary of available research. It's quite detailed and it's very good. I think when you go online, you should be able to go on Google, you should pick it up. But it's out of California. It's an 18-page volume, so it's not too long, and is very good about the characteristics of physiology, toxicity for people, and toxicity for dogs, cattle, fish, and other things. So I encourage a look at that.
And I would add that, so most of us have phosphorus in the muck in the bottom of our lakes, and most of us have phosphorus continually coming into our lake. That's internal loading and external loading. And if you treat the internal loading that's in your lake and don't find solutions for the phosphorus continually coming into your lake, you're going to have to do those internal loading treatments over and over again. I don't know that there's a magic bullet, but you've got to do more than one thing.
Absolutely. And on that topic, Lake Lovers is going to have a lake planning program with the county health department in October to look at what you're doing and what could be enhanced in the lake plans. And so if you have a lake management plan or are looking for ideas, I know there's some great planners in this group. I'll just call out John Schuster with Lake Leopold, who's put together an excellent plan. And I don't know if you have any comments for the group, John, given your diligent analysis of your lake.
I just put in the comments that last week we went and addressed this heavy chara growth around our beach and then let that die off. And about 5 days later, they went in with Utrosorb, and they did Utrosorb in the water column where the chara is dying. And they also did Utrosorb, a granular version to lock up phosphorus in the sediment. And then next week, we're going to start doing C-Clear, which will, the intent there is to target the planktonic algae growth and kind of get ahead of it, and because that will also lock up some of the phosphorus, is what we're being told. So we'll do about 1/4 of the lake at a time, or we'll rotate through it. And they're going to, ILM will basically, we have an experienced guy from ILM, Chris, who's doing this, and he'll kind of call an audible as he comes out and sees the conditions. And we'll try to keep ahead of it this year by putting the C-Clear down early enough to not only address algae, but also to lock up some of the phosphorus in the water column.
How wonderful. You guys are truly innovative. I love the way you're taking the lead with caring for your lake and investing in demonstrations.
Jim has addressed this with us, is that most of what we have is probably internal loading because we've got a lot of prairie grass and everything. Or we don't really have an external loading issue as much as we may have something from the sediment. So we tested the sediment. We pulled up samples from under the ice in February and again in April, and we'll do it again in the summer once stratification occurs. And we want to try to see if we're looking at other things besides just the phosphates and nitrates. We're trying to measure iron and manganese, which may also give us an indication that it's coming from the sediment. So we're going to try to address the long-term effect of that stuff coming out of the sediment, because we get very low DOs at the bottom. And I think that's when, as I understand it, we get the outpouring of phosphorus from sediment. The last thing I'll mention is we're also, we're testing total phosphate, because I know phosphorus, I know that our lake lover suite isn't there yet. So we're doing that, and also this total kilojoule nitrogen, so we can do a total nitrogen to total phosphorus ratio. And I'm going to try to post a data package here before the meeting. But basically, we see our lake, typically we all assume our lakes are phosphorus limited, and typically they are. But when we start to get an algae bloom situation in the late season, we've seen that ratio drop down to about 10 or so. And what I understand is that you could potentially have the cyanobacteria can survive off of nitrogen. They come float to the surface and they can fix it out of the atmosphere. So we're going to look at those two parameters as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, and I'm highlighting here John's Lake with Adina and Andrew, who were out testing Dynamic Duo and sharing the results. But it's also helpful to know that these lakes that are part of the pilot, they've all listed, they have a Lake County report, that most of them have a plan as well as bathymetry to look at. And every week you will see, every other week, we will have updates on how it looks in terms of clarity with the SECI, the phosphorus levels, the water temperature, the DO, dissolved oxygen. And soon we may also have a deeper level dashboard, but because Gloria has been so kind, this is her backyard, for those of you who weren't on earlier, and she has arranged for pontoon boat friends to come and take Sandy, who's on this call, with Chuck. You'll see them on our Zoom right now to do the measurements. And the beautiful swans we heard were surrounding them at the last visit. So obviously the swans are happy with the lake.
Hello, Mary. I just had a comment regarding John's comment. So, John, I appreciate your comment about the internal loading and the phosphorus release from the sediment under oxic conditions. That is, anoxic conditions at the sediment. One of the things where we feel we can contribute is in increasing the oxygen levels at the sediment by promoting the growth of photosynthesizing diatoms. And we've seen this happen in lakes that are at least 15 feet, 20 feet deep, where if you progressively promote the growth of diatoms, they're able to grow in quite deep waters and progressively increase the oxygen levels at those depths. And by doing so, we reduce the internal release of phosphorus. So I think that's something where we feel we can contribute.
Yeah, thanks, Arun. John, did you have any comment to that, or?
Yeah, we'd like to follow up and understand that, because we're looking at things like oxygenating at the bottom. Is that an option or not? Or should we be using some sort of organism? We just haven't gotten that far yet. We're going through the assessment phase, but we'd like to follow up with that and understand more about it, because it may address our situation. We actually do have a small, like North Bay, which is worse than the rest of the lake. It might be a good trial area to do this. We could pilot something there, and that's one of our thinkings, is whether it's oxygenation or these nano bubbles of oxygen or whatever, or these diatoms and organisms. That would be maybe a great area to try it. So we'd like to keep in touch with you on that, please.
I'll connect you two separately via email. So great.
Sure.
Thanks. And if anyone else has anything to add, put it in the chat. Becky, maybe you could put in a plug for our July 17th event. If you could just speak it, because Becky's the story curator.
So that Google map, and Mary, if you can put the link to the Google map into the chat, we would really encourage everyone to be following along. Our goal is to make all the data that we're collecting transparent and public. So stay tuned. There's some there. We're hoping to be giving you more. But we also know that there's people behind the data, right? There's communities, there's restrictions, there's budgets, there's how do you do fundraising, how do you write grants. And instead of every lake out there reinventing the wheel, we're curating this event in celebration in July of Lake Appreciation Month. Docs has got a great deck overlooking Bangs Lake, and it's $35 for a ticket, which includes dinner. If you purchase your ticket by the end of May, then it jumps up to $45. So that includes dinner. And besides networking with other lake lovers, and of course, we would love to have people come that are not part of the pilot. Kind of the takeaway of the night is hearing from these 12 lakes, what's the backstory? Why did they join the pilot? What have they learned so far? What is the data saying? Has the lake done any type of intervention? Are we able to make any conclusions on, is it helping, hurting? The jury is still out. And to really share stories of who's trying what and why, and what type of results are they getting, to sort of speed up maybe other lakes visiting so that they can kind of jumpstart, meet people, know who to talk to. So we're just trying to build the community, share lake stories, have a great night. We're hoping for great weather, not hail like tonight here in Chicagoland, and celebrate our lakes. And as Gloria has really shared, it's up to us, right, to be part of the knowledge, growing that, sharing solutions. And so we would love to see all of you there and encourage you to ask your fellow lake lovers, people who couldn't join us tonight. Perhaps there's some links here to find the tickets, and stay tuned.
Yep. I put the tickets in as the last thing. And Jerry Munley, you're smiling, grinning, because what are you seeing? We'll see you next month. So we'll just say that. We'll let him say goodbye.
A little preview, right?
Yes.
Yes. The Loch Lomond. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Thank you all. Jim, did you lean forward? Are you okay? Okay. Thank you, guys. Have a great night. Gloria, excellent. Really educational, and we will repost it so everyone can share.
Yeah, outstanding.
Nice job. Thank you all for being lake lovers, moving our lakes forward. God bless.
Good night.